free stuff. We all like free stuff, so definitely we're going to talk about that at the end. But in this next topic, Ford has dropped the price of the Mach-E, and they dropped it pretty substantially, like $4,000 across the board, if I'm not mistaken. But we've taken a look, and there's a list that compares the Mach-E versus the Model Y, and we'll see that the Mach-E is actually much cheaper, or can be cheaper than the Model Y. And so before we get into that, we'll preface this. I am certainly a Tesla fan. We've had 4 Teslas so far: a Model 3, a Model Y, an S, and now a Model X. But at the same time, we've got to keep our eyes open out there. See what's the best deal for our wallets, right? We can't just all dive in Tesla first, because there could be other electric vehicles out there with a better deal. So we'll take a look at it. But if you're just joining in, my name is Dennis. I love talking about Tesla hacking, as I like to call it, but basically just getting the best deal on Tesla at the best financing rate. So definitely hit that subscribe if you're interested. And today's video is actually sponsored by my Patreon link down below in the description, where you can support the channel, but more on that later. All right, so let us take a look at this. So shout out to Inside EVs, of course. They compared the 2023 Ford Mach-E versus the Tesla Model Y. Are they competitive? Question mark. So what they did was they took a list of all the different Mach-E's that you can actually get, and of course they factor in the tax credit, whether it's $7,500 or $3,750. So right here on the screen, you can see this is a website from fueleconomy.gov, which is the best website to see which vehicles qualify for the full tax credit or half of the tax credit. But the TLDR is that the Ford Mach-E only qualifies for half of the tax credit at $3,750, and the Model Y qualifies for the full $7,500 federal tax credit. And so if you factor in the tax credit with all the different starting base prices with destination charges, because yes, Ford has destination charges, and yes, Tesla also has destination charges, you can see that this is a list sorted from the cheapest or most inexpensive to the most expensive. And the Ford Mach-E actually has a lot of different variants that are pretty cheap. You can see right here the Ford Mach-E SR standard range or short range LFP battery rear-wheel drive 18-inch starts at $41,045. But the Model Y all-wheel drive with the same factor or the different federal tax rate factor in starts at a little bit of a higher price of $41,380. So some would argue to say maybe that Ford has a little bit of a better build quality, but going all the way to the top one, this is where it gets a little dicey, because the 2023 Ford Mach-E GT Performance is an adjusted $63,045, but the Model Y Performance, after you factor in that juicy, nice $7,500 federal tax rate, is a whole $10,000, $12,000 cheaper at $48,380. So I would 100% say the Model Y Performance is a better deal, bang for a buck at the end of the day for the performance variation. But with the Ford Mach-E Select at a little bit cheaper, I mean, it's a little bit hard to say, because I've sat in a Mach-E, but I've never driven one, and I've been around Mach-E's, but it is certainly very interesting to see that the EV war, price war continues, and Mach-E is pretty competitive in its price compared to it. So, I mean, really the time will tell, or the test will tell, when people actually drive both of them back to back. But it is very interesting to see that Ford being very nimble in that aspect and switching prices just like that very, very quickly. It is cool to see that it seems like their product of switching the electric vehicle department into a whole separate company with Ford is having benefits. And maybe the benefits is for us as the consumer, because we're getting better, lower prices at the end of the day. But let me know what your thoughts on it. Have you driven a Ford Mach-E? Did you actually consider one before ordering or buying your Tesla? And what are your general thoughts on the Ford Mach-E at the end of the day? But definitely some pretty interesting stuff. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you're thinking. We're going to jump into the next topic. But before we do that, this video is actually sponsored by my Patreon link. Down below in the description is the Patreon link where you support the channel. So definitely check it out if you're interested.